Hello, my name is Joe, and welcome to my channel, Joe's Book and Movie Corner. So I have a few more videos for September, Shakespeare, Shorty September, that I still want to make. Maybe even a video for Sumerian September. I've been reading in the background quietly, some Robert E. Howard. But as I was thinking about October and what I wanted to read, I came up with a TBR. And this TBR has blown beyond what I would be able to read in October. So I'm just going to do just an end of the year, 2025 wrap up TBR. It's really big. I'm going to focus also on mood reading for the rest of the year. So there's a chance that that one of these books or one of these authors will just shoot me off into some unexpected direction. Also, so I'm going to wrap up at the end with science fiction. I'll put timestamps down below to break up the different genres if you want to skip around. But my science fiction list, I have limited it to just a few books. But it's really just the tip of the iceberg for my true science fiction TBR. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, I will talk about what I'm reading currently. I'm reading It Can't Happen Here by Sinclair Lewis. I'm about halfway through it. I'm enjoying it. I might dedicate that book to its own video because I have a few things I want to say about it. And I'm refraining I'm going to try to refrain from getting diverted too much with each of these books. But even that book has its own little TBR. I mean, because of that book, I could read George Orwell. I could read other dystopian alternate history fiction. I won't get into that. But I will say I'm enjoying It Can't Happen Here currently. All right, so let's talk about the book that kind of started this TBR. This is a book I'm reading for both Victober as well as Randy Ray's, the literate Texan, the Lone Star. Oh, what is it called? I'm messing up the name of it. The Lone Star Book Club. I'm reading Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is a book that I had wanted to read all year for Halloween this year, and it just so happens that it was in Randy's book club list for October. So I'm very excited to be participating in the Lone Star Book Club for October. Now, for this, since I'm reading this as a big group read, I'm going to be spreading this out throughout the entire month of October. I won't finish this until the end of the month. So because of that, this kind of is affecting other potential reads for Victober. As we get through them, I will call them out. But yeah, that's kind of my first Victober book that I will be finishing. Next up, now this is a book I had planned on reading for Victober. This is Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. It's a book also I've been wanting to read for a long time. Now, I don't actually know that I'm going to be reading this month. The reason being is because if I'm reading one Gothic novel, I don't know if I want to simultaneously read another Gothic novel, so I may push this back. Maybe before the end of the year, maybe early next year, I don't know. But this is on my radar. Going back further, just to stay with the classics, I have Persuasion by Jane Austen. Not a book I would read for Victober, but I would like to read this before the end of the year. And if I don't get to it by the end of 2025, this is absolutely going to be the next Jane Austen book that I've read. Previous one that I read was Northanger Abbey. I really, really liked it. So far, that's my favorite Jane Austen book. Maybe because it's kind of the easiest one to read, but I really loved it, and I'm excited to read Persuasion. These next two books are a continuation of Shakespeare. So in Shakespeare, two of the Shakespeare plays that I read were Richard II and Henry IV Part 1. Now, Richard II, that was the play that I think, like Macbeth when I was younger, kind of is helping to really unlock Shakespeare. I loved Richard II. And it's interesting because as I'm looking at other Shakespeare videos and other just booktubers that talk about Shakespeare, some Shakespeare fans don't like that play. I really liked it. I'm getting the sense that it might be kind of Richard II might be kind of a contrarian hipster Shakespeare play. So maybe I'm a contrarian hipster when it comes to Shakespeare. I don't know. I think oh, you like Macbeth, you like Hamlet? That's cute. I like Richard II. So maybe that's me. So these two plays, I want to continue on with that tetralogy The first one would be Henry IV, Part 2, and then Henry V. And with these, there's the second tetralogy. And just in general, I want to make Shakespeare just an ever-present part of my reading life, just going forward for the rest of my life. There's a lot of plays. There's a lot of Shakespeare to get into. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I have one more Shakespeare video that I want to make soon. All right, so that wraps it up for classics. Let's move on to nonfiction. My most popular video on my channel was the March of the Mammoths TBR video that I did. I'll go ahead and link to it. If you're watching this video, you've probably watched that video of mine. And I'm embarrassed to say that the book that I picked for it, I never finished it. You'll notice I never made a follow-up to that video. That's because I stalled out. So I'm thinking there's a good chance that I might continue with this book, and it is Dreadnought, Britain, Germany, and the Coming of the Great War by Robert K. Massie. I've mentioned this book so many times now on my channel. I only made it like 250 pages in. I was enjoying it. It's a really good book. I think Robert Massie is a great writer. It's just I have struggled with nonfiction this year, and I just completely stalled out. So there's a chance before the end of the year that I might start this and read it. This was a gift to me from a family member. I'm going to see this family member soon, so maybe that's motivation for me to finish it so I can discuss it with him. Another book, if I don't want to get into the prelude to World War I, maybe to get back into nonfiction, maybe I should go to a subject which I know that I like probably a little bit better, and that's World War II. I've been meaning to read for a while at An Army at Dawn by Rick Atkinson. This is the first book in the Liberation Trilogy. I have all three books in the Liberation Trilogy. So maybe I should read this. Maybe just stick with World War II. I really like World War II. I'm fascinated by it. And I've been wanting to read this for a long time as well. So that's it for nonfiction. Again, I have more books I could show you, but I don't want this video to go on for too long. Let's talk about men's adventure next. So for men's adventure, I only have one book, but it does represent a series. And that's Dr. No by Ian Fleming. A number of years ago, I was reading the Bond books. I made it up through Dr. No. This book, if I remember right, this is where the series gets a little bit more fantastic. So I would like to reread this. I don't remember too much about it. I remember a big octopus. So I would like to just kind of get back into James Bond and then just reread the last book that I read. Coincidentally, so I should say the reason I want to read this is because I'm a big James Bond movie fan. And when I was a little kid growing up, James Bond, between Thanksgiving and Christmas on TNN and later Spike TV, there was always James Bond marathon. So I have very fond memories of going to see relatives and just kind of hiding myself away into one of their rooms in this one aunt's house and just watching James Bond movies on TNN. And so Ian Fleming and James Bond they just scream the holidays for me. Also, I think it's still going on. There is a booktube event, Dr. November, named after Dr. No, where you read spy fiction. So this might be a total coincidence. So yeah, maybe in November I will read this. But yeah, this kind of represents, I want to continue on with the rest of the series as well. So let's move on to horror next. Now, I didn't pull this one off my shelf. I do own a physical copy. This was given to me by a friend, so I think I want to read it close to Halloween. It's Richard Matheson's Stir of Echoes. Again, this was just kind of given to me. This is an author also that I just want to read more of in general. I've only read one of his books before, Hell House, a long time ago. And yeah, I'd like to read more of him, and I'll probably start with Stir of Echoes. Another book that I want to read, just next horror book, maybe for Halloween, maybe later in the year, would be The Troop by Nick Cutter. If you look into extreme horror, this is an author and a book that always comes up. There's another book of his, I can't remember the title, but I think it's about like something to do underwater with submarines or something. Maybe I'll look it up and maybe you'll see the title of it at the bottom. But yeah, I think I'll read this one first. I don't know what this is about. I've just heard it's pretty messed up, and I like disturbing extreme horror. All right, so let's get into fantasy next. Now, this first book I want to mention, I don't have a physical copy of it. I'm reading it on my Kindle. I've mentioned this series before, and it's the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Now, you may be saying, Joe, this is science fiction. It's not fantasy. I'm lumping it with fantasy. And the reason is because, and this is a critique, I put it in there with kind of bloated, never-ending series epic fantasy. Yes, I know the story. It's science fiction. It's about aliens. It's also dystopian. But it's a long series. The books get longer and longer as you go on. The next book in the series would be The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. So I want to jump back into this series, even though I'm like approaching it as a critique. I am still liking it. I do like these books. Next up, and again, I don't know. I'm really just mentioning this just to keep it on my radar. Well, I've already showed it. It's The Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. This is book 8. Yeah, book 8 in The Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time is a series I started 6 or 7 years ago, and when I got to this book, about a third of the way through, I just stalled out and could not continue. This is I think the first book into what is known as the slog, when the series just slows down. So with Dungeon Crawler Carl, this is an even more bloated fantasy, never-ending series. So, and I'm critiquing it very strongly here, and you might be asking, well, why do you want to even finish it? I want to finish it because despite me critiquing it, I do actually really like it. It does have moments throughout the series, book 4 in particular, which were really, really cool. And I want to get to that ending. I know A Memory of Light is supposed to be a really great finale to the whole series. And I want to experience that. But I do have to jump back in at some point. I don't know. There's a chance that there's a very strong chance I will just push this off till next year, maybe even the year after. There's a good chance I will be reading The Lord of the Rings again. That's another book that Randy Ray has picked out for his book club, and I've been wanting to reread that also since I read it for the first time last year. So I don't know if it'll be a good idea to be reading 2 epic fantasy series at once, but it's still on my radar. And once I finish Wheel of Time, the whole channel will change. There's going to be a bookshelf behind me with the Wheel of Time and Malazan and all these other series, and just the lighting will change, and this will be a total fantasy booktube channel, and I can quit my day job and make millions. So that's another reason I want to finish it. I just want to fully commit to fantasy too. Anyway, that's Wheel of Time there. And another fantasy series that I have been talking about, and I do want to start, is Michael Moorcock's Elric of Melniboné. This is a series, so you can see here it's much thinner. I'm hoping that this series is a little more episodic in nature and not the more modern, bloated fantasy. Also, you'll notice my copy is a doll copy. There's been a popular trend on BookTube, show off your dolls. I have some doll books, a small collection. I have not decided to make that video because I have not read any of my doll collection yet. So I've got all the Elric books, and then I've got a few just, other authors, and Andre Norton is one of them. I'm embarrassed to show them off because I'm collecting them to read, and I just haven't read a single one yet. So I'm showing off this one, the first Elric book. Okay, and lastly, we have science fiction. And if there is a section that will derail me and I will stick with this genre, it's this one, science fiction. A couple months ago now, I made in one of my weekly wrap-up videos, I had a huge, or maybe it was way back, I think it was actually back for Rocket Summer a couple months ago. I made a huge TBR for science fiction. That TBR is still valid. I'm just picking out books and authors that I don't think I mentioned. And just know that this small TBR of science fiction, it's just the tip of the iceberg for me. I could go on and on and on with science fiction. So I'm limiting myself to a few of them. So first up, I want to mention a Philip K. Dick novel. This is Martian Time Slip by Philip K. Dick. I've read 5 Philip K. Dick novels so far. The last one I read, Time Out of Joint, I will be talking about very soon. I loved it. It was great. And I'm really excited to read this one. I'm sure that this will be the next Dick novel that I read. I'm hoping it's going to be really weird. But yeah, I think with Time Out of Joint, I can firmly say I am a Philip K. Dick fan. So yeah, really excited to read that. This next one is another one that could count for Victober, and it's The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. I recently read The Time Machine for Shorty September. I liked it a lot. It was great. I may have read this a long time ago. I know I read a children's abridged version when I was young. Maybe I read the actual novel, or maybe my brother read it and I'm just misremembering. Either way, I don't remember if I read it or not, so basically I haven't read it. But yeah, this could count for Victober. It's not very long. Yeah, there's a good chance that I will actually read this in October. Next up, we have Nonstop by Brian Aldiss. Now, at this point, I should call out, just to call out a couple booktubers. So I've mentioned Randy Ray. I also want to call out, give a shout out to Stephen E. Andrews, the Outlaw Bookseller. A lot of my science fiction in my TBR has come from the Outlaw Bookseller. If you are unaware of his channel and you like science fiction, you absolutely need to check him out. He focuses more on new wave. But yeah, this is one of the books that he recommends. It sounds great. I've been meaning to read this is a generational starship novel, and this one sounds really good. So yeah, I've been wanting to read this for a while now. Another booktuber, I'm not picking actually any book from this booktuber, but I just want to also give a shout out my science fiction list. Nothing really in this small list here is representative of recommendations from him, but Michael K. Vaughan has also been a big part, more in the older pulp science fiction. I guess I should mention the Barsoom series. Michael K. Vaughan is a big fan of Edgar Rice Burroughs. I recently read A Princess of Mars. I loved it. That's another series I want to jump into. But yeah, just a shout out to Michael K. Vaughan for contributing to my interest in science fiction. But moving on, more back to something that would be kind of recommended more from the Outlaw Bookseller. Recently, I read and I made a video on William Gibson's Burning Chrome. This is a short story collection. 3 of the short stories, John Mnemonic, New Rose Hotel, and Burning Chrome, take place in the Sprawl universe, or the Sprawl setting. So when I'm ready to read this next book, I'm going to reread those 3 stories and then follow it up immediately with Neuromancer by William Gibson. This is the cyberpunk book, I am told. This book was given to me by a friend. I used to work with this friend. I don't work with him anymore. This is when I didn't work from home, when I actually worked in an office. He came in on a Monday with this book and he was like, I'm starting Neuromancer. I'm really excited. It's the cyberpunk novel. And then it seemed like the next day, on Tuesday, he brought it in and was like, here, dude, I'm done with this stupid thing. He did not like the prose. And I know what he's talking about. When I was reading some of the stories here, I struggled a little bit with this author. I'm hoping that once I reread the 3 short stories that I mentioned, I'm hoping that despite the prose being a little difficult, I'm hoping that the longer novel length will kind of help ease me into his style more. Despite that, I mean, there were stories in here that I did really, really love. But I know what my friend is saying with his prose style. And I did find it a little bit difficult too. But I am committed to reading this relatively soon. Going back to fantasy, just as a little stinger here. I want to make a video soon about Sumerian September. I've very quietly been reading Robert E. Howard. Once again, thanks to Michael K. Vaughan. And I don't know if I have a lot to say about Conan the Barbarian, but I have a few more stories to read. I've got the novel Hour of the Dragon. Am I saying that right? I will make a correction if I'm wrong. I've got Red Nails to read, and then maybe two other novelettes of his that I need to read. But I have been reading Conan the Barbarian. I have been enjoying them. They've all been kind of running together in my head. They're all kind of one big Conan mishmash. But yeah, as just an addendum to my fantasy section, I do want to read more Robert E. Howard. But that's all for now. That's a huge list. That should take me into 2026. And hopefully I touch on at least one book from each of those sections. But that is all for now. Thank you.